discuss today. The Mets and Yankees, both 3 wins away from a World Series. That's right. We're very close to a Subway World Series. Yankees game 2 tonight capped off a 5-2 win last night over the Guardians. Mets, they tied up the series. We talked about it yesterday. If you want to take a look at that pod, Mets and Yankees both win yesterday, giving them an opportunity to go to the World Series with just 3 more wins each, and they'll be there. Jets, major trade today. Davante Adams coming into the Jets. Hopefully he's going to be able to save the season, as the Jets fell to 2-4 yesterday. They had an opportunity to take first place in the AFC East. Instead, they lose to the Bills. Bills take first place, keep first place. Jets drop to 2-4, and now they're third in the AFC East, only a game out of the wild card for the AFC. But we're going to get into that in a little bit. And then Daniel Jones and Brian Daboll, we're going to have a discussion later today to wrap up this show about them, because Daniel Jones is just not the guy. But is Brian Daboll also holding this offense back, or is he facing too much criticism, too much unwarranted criticism? Because in my opinion, I think he's a great head coach, and it's Daniel Jones that's a problem. But we're going to be talking about all that later today. Let's kick it off with the New York Mets tying up the series against the Los Angeles Dodgers. Sean Manaea dominated through 5 innings. He kept Shohei Ohtani in check. I mean, the guys that we talked about it in the first game, Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani, those 3 combined in game 1 had 5 RBIs. In game 2, none of them got base hits. So that's huge for the Mets. You control those 3 guys, then you control this series. And now taking 1 in LA was huge. I think if we go down 2-0, normally I'd say it's doable. It's a 7-game series, but at the end of the day, this is the Los Angeles Dodgers. They've been the best team in baseball for a reason. They've been to the playoffs consistently over the past few years for a reason. They're one of the best teams, if not the best team in baseball. And it's going to be a challenge for the Mets, no matter what. So taking 1 in LA was huge, because 1, we go down 2-0. I don't think the Mets come back from that. And then you tie up the series with 3 in a row now at Citi Field. That's huge. It's a 5-game series, and the Mets got the home field advantage in the 5-game series right now. So the Mets, they're actually looking good. They're looking good against the dominant LA Dodgers, tying up the series 1-1 last night. Mark Vientos proven he is legit. It's not a fluke. It's not just a spark season because it's his first year and pitchers are going to start to figure him out, because you know what? Pitchers start to figure out successful rookies in the playoffs. I mean, we saw it. Bobby Witt, he struggled in the postseason. So we've seen, I'm not trying to say Vientos is better than Bobby Witt or is going to be, but Vientos, he should start getting his name talked about a lot more, because Mark Vientos is a superstar. He is an emerging superstar for the Mets right now, no doubt about it. Hit 27 home runs in the regular season in just, less than 115 games. So you got to factor in when he plays 160 games, he could be a 30, 40 home run guy, 100-plus RBI guy. I mean, he's legit. He's right there. If we re-sign Pete Alonso, I mean, even no matter what happens, I don't like talking about the offseason right now, especially when the Mets are in the thick of it in the playoffs. But, Vientos, you look at the future of the Mets, he's a cornerstone piece now. So you re-sign Alonso, you got Alonso, Lindor, Vientos, no matter what, for at least a few years to come. Outside of that, you get good starters like they did this year, whether it's veteran starters, whether it's back in 2015, 2014, that era of the Mets where we had young starters. The Mets have the offense. The offense is good. So no matter what happens with Soto this year or Bregman or anybody that could potentially join this Mets lineup, it really doesn't matter to me, because Mark Vientos has become a guy. That's an addition to the Mets lineup, because you could say all you want that Vientos was going to be a great player and he was going to be a great third baseman for the Mets, but I don't think anybody expected this. You cannot. I mean, Vientos is playing better than an all-star. He is playing like a superstar. He put the team on his back yesterday. And then his comments after the game, I mean, we were all joking about it. On a lot of Mets fans on X and on Facebook, they were joking about it before Vientos even had a chance to say. But he did take that personal when they intentionally walked Francisco Lindor to load the bases for Mark Vientos. I mean, the guy was coming into the game with a .375 batting average, 2 home runs. He killed the Phillies the series prior. So, yeah, you load the bases, you avoid Lindor, but you load the bases for a guy like Mark Vientos. And Mark Vientos, it's not like he's just having a hot postseason. He was great in the regular season. Like I said before, 268 batting average, 27 home runs in less than 120 games. Like, this guy is legit. And like I said before, most rookies that have great regular seasons, they either get figured out in the second year by pitchers or in the playoffs. And the playoffs, I would say, pitchers figure out rookies even more than the next season. And Vientos has proven that, you know what, he's waiting on his pitch. He knows what he wants. He was hunting yesterday for one pitch only. I mean, he laid off a lot of sliders yesterday during that at bat where he hit the grand slam. So Vientos, I think he is legit. He is a cornerstone piece for the Mets. He is not just a young guy with potential. No, he's that guy right now for the Mets. He has been their best hitter in the postseason. I mean, outside of Lindor and Alonso's MVP moments in the postseason, Vientos has been the most consistent guy. He has been the postseason MVP in my mind for the Mets. Because, I mean, you could say, obviously, no matter what, we're not here without Lindor's grand slam, without Lindor's home run that sent us to the playoffs against Atlanta, without Alonso's top of the ninth go-ahead home run against Milwaukee in Game 3 when our season was on the line. Yes, we're not here without those moments, but we're also not here without Mark Vientos. Vientos has been spectacular in the playoffs. And you got to love to see it when they intentionally, and you know what? He kills lefties all year, but he's doing it against right-handers right now. So that's also a great sign for the Mets. I never really thought the Mets would be able to replace David Wright, but I do think they got their cornerstone piece, their long-term third baseman, or maybe even first baseman, depending on what happens with Alonso this offseason. But we're in the thick of it, like I said before. So let's talk about that. Let's continue to talk about that. Mark Vientos, like I said, probably the postseason MVP for the Mets. We're not here right now without him. In 9 games this playoffs, he has a .410 on-base percentage, a .378 batting average, 14 hits in 9 games, 11 RBIs, 3 home runs, with an OPS of 1.086. I mean, that guy he's legit. He's the cornerstone piece of the Mets, and he's proven it right now. He's proven that his regular season wasn't a fluke because, like I said, if pitchers are going to figure him out, they would have tried to do it in the postseason, and they just haven't been able to. Vientos has been unstoppable in the playoffs. But yeah, another guy, like I said on the pod yesterday, well, not on the pod, on the reaction video yesterday when the Mets won, Francisco Lindor won the game for the Mets with the leadoff home run. He had a terrific at-bat. I believe it was an 8-pitch at-bat total on a 2-strike count. And then that leadoff home run, breaking that scoreless streak for the LA Dodgers. It was great. It set the tone for the Mets right there. And I think that's the reason why the rest of the Mets had that jolt in the second inning. And all game, really, the bullpen outside of one blur, I think it was Budo. I could be wrong. Let me check. But yeah, Lindor did win us that game, I think. He set the tone right away. 7 or 8 pitch at bat. It was a great at bat. And then he finishes the game 1 for 4. And now in the postseason, he's got an OPS of 872. He's got 2 home runs now in the postseason, 7 RBIs, and 8 hits in 9 games. Scored 8 times this postseason. And he's doing the little things right, too. He's playing great defense. I mean, that's expected as well. He got 4 total bases yesterday with the home run. So, I mean, this guy is he's the MVP for a reason. Like I said before, Vientos is the postseason MVP for me, but we're not here without Lindor. We are not here without Lindor. And then, he did score twice, so that was big as well. Huge for the Mets. Nimmo, we want to see him getting going a little bit. He's only hitting .212 in the postseason right now. Francisco Alvarez, I talked about it yesterday. The Mets seriously got to consider putting in Louis Torrens these next few games because he's batting 156 right now in the postseason. On-base percentage of 182, a slugging percentage of 156. And I know you can make the case that he could change the game with one swing of the bat. But at the same time, he is not performing this postseason. He hasn't performed all postseason. So the Mets got to have a serious conversation with the management team. Carlos Mendoza, David Stearns got to meet up, got to discuss. Would Louis Torrens give the Mets a better shot at winning games against the Los Angeles Dodgers for the rest of the series? I think so. I think they got to do it. It sucks because I would love to see Alvarez hit a home run in a big spot, but he's come up multiple times, bases loaded this postseason. He's come up multiple times with runners on this postseason, and he's failed to produce time and time again. So Alvarez, you got to keep an eye out for that. I don't think we're going to see him in the lineup as much as we're used to seeing. He'll probably play at least a few more games this series, but I think he gets the night off tomorrow. I think we're going to see Louis Torrens get the nod for catching tomorrow. And then another guy I wanted to talk about was Jesse Winker before I wrap up with the Mets, because a lot of people are trying to figure out, who do you want Jeff McNeil to sub in for? One, I already talked about it yesterday, not Jose Iglesias. You want his veteran presence in that lineup. And he was a guy who's the reason, a huge reason we're in the playoffs right now. 83 games this year, 341 batting average, 843 OPS. I mean, obviously, only 4 home runs. You'd like to see more in that department. But at the end of the day, we got guys like Vientos, like Alonso, and like Lindor, and even Brandon Nimmo, who are doing that. I want Iglesias in the lineup. McNeil coming off an injury. I don't want him in for Iglesias right now. I think Iglesias gives us a better opportunity to win. I saw some people suggesting Jesse Winker. I think that's stupid. Jesse Winker has been great this postseason. Struck out twice yesterday, but he also went 1 for 3. He was one of the only guys to get a hit off Jack Flaherty in game 1. I mean, even though he had that base running error that was very costly, actually. It would have set the Mets up in a nice spot at that point in the game. But at the end of the day, in the postseason, he's been great. In 7 games, he's got 4 hits, 267 batting average, an OPS of 1.076, 3 RBIs in the home run, the big home run against Philly, and then he's gotten on base 4 times with a walk. So Winker, and then a hit by pitch as well against Milwaukee. So he's been on base a lot. He's been all over on the offensive side for the Mets. I think you got to keep him in the lineup, especially against right-handers. He kills right-handers. That's what the Mets brought him here to do, and he's been doing that. And he's been doing it in the postseason. And then Starlin Marte had a big day yesterday. He was 3 for 5. I mean, all postseason long, he's come up in big spots, adding us insurance runs. And, I mean, numbers-wise, you look at his playoff stats, only a 241 batting average, a 609 OPS. Like, yeah, that's not great. But at the same time, he has 6 RBIs this postseason, hitting in the middle and the bottom of the order in most games. So good for Marte. I mean, he's getting paid a lot. And you know what? At the end of the day, he didn't have a great season this year, didn't have a great season in 2023. But in the postseason, when it matters most, in big spots with runners on, Starlin Marte has provided. So you got to give credit to Marte as well. And then the pitching staff, obviously, like I said before, Mane had a great game, controlled Shohei Ohtani, controlled Freddie Freeman, controlled Mookie Betts. The 3 of those guys, they combined for 5 RBIs in game 1. That wasn't good for the Mets. That just was not good. So you got to take a look at the pitching as well. Phil Maton had a great game. He did let up 2 walks, which wasn't good. But outside of that, I mean, the Mets played a very good ball game. They played a very good ball game. Edwin Diaz a little shaky at the end, but he did strike out 3 batters, walked a batter 2, let up a hit. And, you know, he doesn't make it easy, but he's been getting the job done in the playoffs, at least at some points for us, outside of one game in Milwaukee, game 2 specifically. But the Mets are doing great. You got to like where they're at. 5-game series now, and they have home field advantage 3 out of these next 5 games in New York, 3 in a row in New York. You take 2 out of 3 of those, put Mane on the bump for game 6. Get it done in 6, Mets. Game 5, I think they got to give the ball to Peterson. I wanted to talk about that. I don't know who the Mets are going to throw for game 5, but it shouldn't be Kodai Senga. I don't think we need Senga coming into a game right now for the Mets again. I mean, send him out there in the 2nd inning of game 1. I think that was what cost the Mets the game. That's what cost the Mets the game early. In some of these series, some of these games, you know, it's all about what you do early on. And the Mets, they did it early on yesterday. Lindor set the tone with the home run, 2nd inning, loading up the bases, you know, and giving Lindor the free pass to face Vientos, who's been our best postseason hitter. I mean, you got to love it. You got to love it. But yeah, Vientos is riding star. Mets are definitely in this. They have the advantage right now. We got Severino on the bump tomorrow. Hopefully we can get a good start out of that guy, because you never really know. When Severino's on, he's on, but when he's off, he is very off. So if we get good Severino tomorrow, we're going to be in a good spot. It was his decision to wear the black uniforms tomorrow, and the Mets are going to be in black. So they're going to have they're going to be pumped up, because it was Sevy who made that decision. So Sevy's a guy with a lot of emotion. He wears it on his sleeve. So far this postseason, he's pitched 2 games. I'd say he had 2 pretty good starts. I know against Philly, he let up a crucial home run, but 2 crucial home runs actually. But then he also pitched against Philly again, and he bounced back when the Mets got a 10-6 win. Went 6 innings that game, only allowed 3 runs, struck out 7, only allowed 5 hits. So he's given us 2 quality starts so far in the postseason. He's due for a dominant start, and he's also due for a really bad start. So I don't know what Sevy we're going to get tomorrow, but if we get the good Sevy, obviously the Mets are going to be in good hands. Mets are going to be facing Walker Buehler, who in the postseason right now, his ERA is above a 10. His lone game against San Diego, he let up 6 earned runs across 5 innings of work, 7 hits, a home run, no strikeouts. So that's a good sign for the Mets. Hopefully they can beat up on Walker Buehler tomorrow and take a 2-1 series lead. And like I said before, you take 2 out of 3 in New York, Mets are in a very good spot going back to LA. All right, we're going to take a little break here. We're going to get into some Yankees, and then we're going to get into some football. Yankees play very soon, in about 2 hours. Not even. Yankees take game 2. Well, they take game 2. I think they will. 2-0 series lead. That would be huge. I mean, they have a very easy path to the World Series, but we're going to get into that in just a second. Last 80 games of 2023, 284 batting average, 15 home runs, 44 RBIs. If we get that Lindor for a full year, and now I'm not saying last year he didn't have a all year. Look at the numbers. Last year, 2023, Lindor was a top shortstop. He was an all MLB shortstop. 30-30. He was a beast. But in the last 80 games, the second half, that's when Lindor really turned it up. If we get that Lindor for a full season, the Mets are going to make the playoffs. They're going to make the playoffs. And Lindor will be an MVP candidate. He has MVP potential. I've said it since the Mets have traded for him. Francisco Lindor has the talent, has the ability to win an MVP. He is that good. But he's inconsistent at times. I cannot ignore that. But over the last 80 games of 2023, he was pretty consistent. And he was probably the best, second best, right after Corey Seager. But he was arguably the best shortstop in all of baseball the last 80 games. That's what Lindor can be. And if we get that for a full year, not only will he be an MVP candidate, but the Mets will be in the postseason. He's that good. Lindor is that good. Now, I'm not saying he's going to win the MVP, but I've been saying it since we've traded for him. He has it in him. He does have it in him. Last year, undoubtedly his best year. Second half, he was the best shortstop in baseball. We get that for a full year. Mets are going to the playoffs. Let's go over to the DH, and then we'll get into the Yankees. Jorge Soler wants at least 3 years. If he wants 3 years and he's going to get 3 years, stay away from it. Last year, he was great, 30-plus home runs. Probably had the best year of his career. But he's also 31. He's had 11 years. It took him 11 years to have that type of year. I'm not saying that he's going to have that year for the next 3 years. I would stay away. So that gets me into my next guy, J.D. Martinez. I wrote a piece on it just last week. J.D. Martinez is a perfect fit with the Mets. Perfect fit. You got guys like Vientos. You got guys like Beatty. You got guys like Francisco Alvarez. You got all these young guys that you want to have them make an impact for the Mets eventually in the future. Not only can J.D. Martinez help you now, but he's not going to take away at bats from those guys, 1. And 2, he could help those young guys. And he could be the DH for this year. He could help the Mets in 2023. That's really the simple answer. Why is he a perfect fit with the Mets? Because he would help them win in 2024. Down the road, is he going to affect the Mets? No, because it would only take a 1 or 2 year deal. Guy's 38. And guess what? I'm not going to say he's washed, because guess what? He's 3 years in a row, he's made the All-Star team. 3 consecutive years. J.D. Martinez is the furthest thing from washed up. Just last year, 33 home runs, over 100 RBIs, 271 batting average. Lindor, Alonso, J.D. Martinez, Francisco Alvarez. 4 guys right there who have 30-plus home run potential. He makes the Mets lineup a playoff lineup. Mets, go out there and sign J.D. Martinez. Complete this lineup. What do you guys think? Should the Mets sign J.D. Martinez? I think he's a great fit here. But then again, I'm not David Stearns. So only time will tell. Spring training starts tomorrow. So I don't think he's going to get signed before spring training, but before the regular season starts, they got to figure out what they're going to do with the DH. Is it Vientos? Is it Beatty? Or do they go out there and they get a veteran like JD Martinez who would help them win in 2000? Woo! All right, let's get back into this. Yankees took game 1 last night, 5-2 win over the Cleveland Guardians. Giancarlo, Stan, Big G getting the job done again. Juan Soto as well. Another great postseason game out of him. Aaron Judge, not so much. Another 0-2 game for him. He's now batting 133 this postseason. But Soto, 2 for 3, has the home run. And then Giancarlo Stanton, another postseason home run for him. This postseason, Stanton has been the best player for the Yankees. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, since he's been a Yankee, he's struggled in the regular season. And then in the playoffs, he shows you why he's getting paid that much. So a lot of people owe an apology to Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, people were booing him in his first ever game at Yankee Stadium just because of the contract he had. But in 5 games this postseason, he's batting .368, OPS of 1.244, 7 hits in those 5 games, scored 3 times, drove in 5 runs, 2 home runs, 2 doubles, and only struck out twice. I mean, he's a guy in the regular season, he struck out 143 times in just 114 games. He's only struck out twice in 5 games. So Stanton's locked in right now. Once the Yankees get a little something out of Aaron Judge, I mean, it's a cakewalk for him to the World Series and potentially win a World Series because no matter who they face, Mets or Dodgers, you're going to need Stanton. I mean, that's what he's getting paid to do. I mean, now at this point, I think it's fair to expect Stanton's playing like a superstar. He turns into a superstar in the playoffs. We've seen it before. We've seen it last year, the year before that, the year before that, the year before that. Giancarlo Stanton is a performer in the playoffs. That's who he is. In big spots, he gets the job done. He's a world-class hitter. He was a former MVP. He's a guy who had over 50 home runs. So, I mean, I'm not surprised to see Stanton dominating right now. And I think it's now fair to expect Stanton to be a guy for the Yankees for the rest of the postseason. And like I said before, it's not just Stanton right now. Juan Soto is also having a terrific postseason. In 5 games, he's got 6 hits, .353 batting average, an OPS of 1.043. He's got his first home run in the playoffs yesterday with the Yankees. And he's only driven in 3 runs so far, but he's been on base with 4 walks as well. So he's been on base 10 times in 5 games. I mean, they got to re-sign him. But you can't even focus on that right now because he's playing for the Yankees right now. I mean, this is the Yankees' best shot to win the World Series. Stanton, you don't know how much longer you're going to get out of him. I mean, he's been getting hurt a lot. He's 34 years old. I mean, he's playing probably his best playoff performance right now, and that's saying something because he's had a lot of them. You get some out of Aaron Judge, you're good to go. Jazz Chisholm, you want to see a little bit more out of him. He's hitting 105 this postseason. So that's definitely alarming, especially with a guy. He's talking about the Yankees winning the World Series before the playoffs even started. And I love that energy. And I love Jazz Chisholm Jr. as a player, especially since he's been traded to the Yankees. With the Yankees this year, in 64 games after getting traded there, had an .825 OPS, .273 batting average, 11 home runs, 23 RBIs. I mean, he was having the best stretch of his career after getting traded to the Yankees. He seems like such a great fit, but in the playoffs so far, he's batting 105, an OPS of 413, an on-base percentage of 150. So he's not even getting on base. He's gotten walked once this playoffs. Struck out 5 times in 5 games with only 2 hits, and one of them was a home run. So, but Jazz, you got to see more out of him. You definitely want to see more out of him because not every single game Juan Soto and Stanton are going to hit home runs. And Aaron Judge needs to get going as well. Aaron Judge is hitting 133 this postseason, 564 OPS with only 3 RBIs. He hasn't hit a home run since September 26th. That's a long time. We've played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We've seen 7 consecutive Yankee games without Aaron Judge hitting a home run. And that's usually, for any other player, it's like, oh, yeah, that's expected. 7 straight games without a home run. Big whoop. What else is he doing? But no, Aaron Judge, it felt like since 2022, he would hit a home run every 5 games at the very least. Sometimes he was hitting a home run consecutive games. Sometimes he was hitting a home run like every other game for like a whole month. He hasn't hit a home run since September 26th. That's a long time for Aaron Judge. And in the postseason, he's been a dud. He's been an absolute dud. He's only got 2 hits in the playoffs right now. 2 hits in 22 plate appearances. I mean, he's getting walked. He's got 6 walks so far this playoffs. He's got a stolen base, scored 3 times in 5 games. But outside of that, I mean, 2 hits, that's not what you need out of, I mean, he's about to be a 2-time AL MVP right now. And he for sure isn't playing like it. And like I said before, Yankees are going to the World Series. For sure, even without Aaron Judge performing. But the Yankees, no matter who they play in the World Series, whether it's Mets or the Dodgers, they need Aaron Judge. They can't just expect Giancarlo, Stanton, and Juan Soto to carry them over a lineup that has Lindor, Alonso, Vientos, or a lineup that will have Freeman, Betts, Ohtani, like Teoscar Hernandez even. Like, he's a scary hitter as well, hitting behind those guys. So no matter, Yankees will be in the World Series. I don't think you have to be worried about that. But what are you going to get out of Aaron Judge? Because the Yankees aren't winning the World Series this year without Aaron Judge. You cannot have the centerpiece of your team not perform. You're not going to win. You're not going to live up to the expectations if your centerpiece is not performing. And if the Yankees had a better rotation, I'd say without Judge, maybe they can. But the Yankees rotation outside of Clark Schmidt and Garrett Cole, who do you trust? Carlos Rodon, you got to give it to him, though. He did have a good outing yesterday. And you know what? At the end of the day, that is what he's getting paid to do. But boy, he needed it more than anybody. Carlos Rodon, 6 innings pitched, 3 hits allowed, 1 earned run, 9 Ks. So he stepped up after a bad postseason performance. Now it's Aaron Judge's turn. So Judge needs to get going if the Yankees want to go all the way. They definitely can. They're going to get past the Guardians without him. No, that's a fact. But if they go up against the Mets, if they go up against the Dodgers, they need Aaron Judge. Like I said before, Carlos Rodon, got to give him some credit. He bounced back in a great start. 6 innings, like I said before. Only 3 hits, 9 strikeouts. So Rodon, he was vintage Carlos Rodon, and he did have a great year. I mean, a sub-4 ERA, 16-9. But at the end of the day, he's getting paid. He got that $160 million contract. And those are what you need out of a guy that's getting paid that much. That's what you need right there. He gave you the start that Yankees fans have been wanting. And just like Pete Alonso, I mean, he had a subpar. Like, Alonso, you look at his numbers, it was subpar. He didn't have a bad year. He had a subpar year. Definitely not like, with runners in scoring position, he sucked. You can definitely say that. But you look at his numbers overall, he had a subpar year. As long as he keeps having good postseason games, people are going to forget about the regular season for Alonso. They already have. Carlos Rodon, the same thing for him. If he pitches well for the remainder of the postseason, that's 3 good pitchers for the Yankees. And Rodon, vintage Carlos Rodon, I mean, that's him. That's the guy you saw yesterday. 6 innings, only 3 hits allowed with 9 strikeouts, no walks. So you get that version of Carlos Rodon. That's a major plus for the Yankees. Let's see if he can keep it going. He's probably going to pitch another game this series if it goes to 7. But I don't think it's going to go to 7, especially if they win tonight's matchup. Tonight, the Yankees have Garrett Cole on the bump, and I don't see him losing that game. Guardians have Tanner Bybee going on the bump for them. He was 12-8 this regular season with a 3.47 ERA. In the postseason so far, he's allowed 2 earned runs over 8.2 innings of work, 9 strikeouts overall. So I do like the Yankees again in this matchup, but Rodon, if he's giving you what he gave you yesterday for the rest of the postseason, you're good to go. But before we do get into tonight's game, and that starts in just a little bit, the Yankees bullpen has been lights out. They have been lights out in the playoffs. And one guy who I want to start off with before I get into Luke Weaver, who's been great, Clay Holmes. I mean, like I said before, Rodon and Alonso, if they have great postseasons, Alonso, people already forgot about his regular season. Rodon, he can continue to do what he did last night. Then people are going to forget about the past 2 regular seasons for him. Clay Holmes. People are forgetting about his regular season already. Clay Holmes goes out there in the playoffs right now. You don't have butterflies in your stomach anymore. When he first came out in the first round of the playoffs against Kansas City, yeah, you had butterflies in your stomach. But Clay Holmes has pitched in every single game for the Yankees this postseason. Hasn't let up a single run. I mean, you take him out of the closing role, which a lot of Yankees fans were begging for. They were begging Aaron Boone, just take him out of the closing role. He doesn't have closing stuff. He's not a strikeout pitcher. He's not a power pitcher. So it does make sense. Why would you want him in the closing role? And now that he's out of the closing role, he's in more of a setup role. He's been phenomenal. And he's gaining his confidence back. And when you're a good reliever, and a lot of times, like you can look at Edwin Diaz, prime example, just across town. When Edwin Diaz, when his mind is off, he's off. But when he's on, his mind is on, his mindset's right, he's going. I mean, same thing with a lot of relief pitchers, dude. Clay Holmes, he was probably thrown off from, the most blown saves. He was having a terrible regular season in 2024. But he's turning it around. And the more, each game, Clay Holmes is getting stronger. He's getting stronger. So the confidence in Clay Holmes right now definitely has to be at a high this year. And, you got to give him credit. Every game this postseason, and he still has yet to let up a single run. Luke Weaver as well. Since he took over that closing role, he's been a stud. And just like Clay Holmes, he's pitched in almost, I think he actually has pitched in every single game this postseason for the Yankees. And just like Clay Holmes, he hasn't let up a single run. Not a single run this playoffs he is allowed. And he's got 9 strikeouts. Just last night, he was dominant. Yankees got 1.2 innings out of Luke Weaver. Struck out 4 batters. Only 1 walk. Didn't allow a hit. And then Clay Holmes, since we brought him up before, he actually did pretty well too. 1 inning of work. 1 strikeout. No hits allowed. No walks allowed. So, wow, their whips are insane too. Clay Holmes has a 0.67 whip in the postseason, and Luke Weaver has a 0.50 whip in the postseason. That's insane. That is outright insane. Tim Hill, he let up a run last night, which wasn't too well. His ERA in the postseason is up to a 6.75. So in 3 games this postseason. That's what happens when you let up 1 earned run, though. The stats don't look good when you're a reliever. But outside of that, the Yankees bullpen has been phenomenal, and that was the one worry you had going into this playoffs. So now the only worry is Aaron Judge, when is he going to wake up? And you can at least supplement it until you get to the World Series, which is huge, because you got Juan Soto and Big G, Giancarlo Stanton, playing like a stud, playing like a superstar. And I think, like I said, we can expect that to continue, because it seems like it's a reoccurring theme where Stanton really steps it up in the playoffs. So I think I can call him a superstar in the postseason. Maybe not in the regular season, but he's a superstar in the postseason for sure. But now it's really just a rotation. What are you going to get out of him? Garrett Cole on the bump tonight. You got to love that. Take a 2-0 lead. Maybe you get Clark Schmidt for game 3. Rodon, like I said, if he's giving you what he gave you yesterday for the rest of the postseason, that's a major plus for the Yankees. Major plus. Also, Marcus Stroman back on the postseason roster. We didn't see him yesterday. I don't think we're going to see him a lot, but we might, maybe if they're down or if they're up a lot. I think that's when we'll see Stroman. And if he does well, then maybe you give him a shot, because he did have a great start to the year. Great first half Marcus Stroman had. So I don't know. That's going to be interesting to see how they use him. But let's go over the lineup overall outside of Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, and Stanton. Jazz, like I said, he definitely does need to get going. Anthony Volpe, you'd love to see a little bit more out of him, but everybody always cuts him slack, I feel like, just because he's such a young kid. But he's always playing great defense. So that is nice. That is nice. But he is hitting 200 in the postseason. And in the regular season, especially in the second half, he didn't do too well. So hopefully you get a little something out of Volpe, because that just like Rodon, that'd be a huge plus. Verdugo went 1 for 3 yesterday in the win. Did strike out twice. He's striking out a lot this playoffs. Yeah, even in the regular season, he didn't really strike out a lot, but in the postseason, he's striking out a lot more than he did in the regular season. In the regular season, he actually struck out only 93 times across 149 games. So yeah, 2 strikeouts yesterday was very un-Alex Verdugo-like. But 316 on base percentage, you like to see that raise a little bit more, but then again, he's hitting in the 9 hole. And then yeah, Austin Wells, he's got to step it up. I mean, he's hitting only 100 in the postseason right now. That's terrible. On base percentage of 182. You're going to need to get him going. Although he has had a couple clutch hits for the Yankees. He actually does have 2 RBIs, 2 hits, but outside of that, hasn't done too well. And then, like I said before, you need a little bit more out of Jazz. But Anthony Rizzo coming in as a surprise. He actually looked good in all 3 of his at-bats. All 4 of his at-bats. Got on base with a walk, got on base with a base hit, went 1 for 3 in his postseason debut. And anything you can get out of Rizzo, I mean, that's huge. That's huge. His defense has definitely taken a step back. Oswaldo Cabrera actually came in as a defense substitution in the late innings, where, Rizzo used to be, I think he was a Gold Glove defender at first when he was with the Cubs. But now, I mean, at his age, how old is he right now? Rizzo's at 35 years old. I mean, you can't expect him to be a stud defensively like he used to be. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they continue to use Rizzo. But I mean, he made a case yesterday. If he's having at bats like he did yesterday, he's got an on base percentage of 500 after 1 game. I'd keep him in there. Let him rock. Let's see if they're rocking with him tonight. They just released the lineups a few hours ago. They are rocking with Rizzo actually at first. Yankees got Gleyber Torres leading off at second. Juan Soto, big game out of him yesterday, batting second in right field. Aaron Judge hitting third in center field. Definitely need to see him get going. He's only hitting 133 this postseason. He's got to wake up. This is interesting. I don't know why they still haven't moved Stanton up in the lineup yet, but Austin Wells batting 4th in the cleanup spot behind the dish. Giancarlo Stanton, the DH, batting 5th. Jazz Chisholm at 3rd, batting 6th. Anthony Volpe, stud shortstop, batting 7th. Anthony Rizzo, the return. Great game out of him yesterday. Some great at-bats put together. Got on base twice for playing 1st, batting 8th. And then batting 9th, Alex Verdugo in left. They will be facing Tanner Bybee, who has done pretty good so far in the postseason. He allowed 2 earned runs in his most recent start against Detroit on October 10th. But in his first postseason start against Detroit, he went 4.2 innings, didn't allow a single run, only walked 1 batter, had 6 strikeouts. So in 8.2 total innings this postseason, he's only allowed 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 9 Ks. So Tanner Bybee going up against Garrett Cole. Garrett Cole, who gave you a great out, and he gave you a prime time Garrett Cole out in his most recent start against Kansas City. Went 7 innings, 6 hits allowed, only 1 earned run allowed. Not too many strikeouts as a strikeout pitcher that Garrett Cole is, especially only 4 Ks, but still got the job done, got the Yankees to win. So, and then he had a couple IPAs with the boys. But Cole, you got to expect him to have a good start. He, like I said, a lot of people want to say he struggled in the regular season. I don't know why people say that. He had 4 bad starts, 2 of them against the Mets, 2 of them against the Red Sox. So it's just for some reason the Mets and the Red Sox had his number. But Garrett Cole, since 2021, the last 3 years. Garrett Cole, since 2021 versus the Cleveland Guardians, is 5-1 with a 2.84 ERA, with 46 strikeouts and 7 appearances. So 5-1 in 7 games against the Guardians. You got to like those numbers. Most recent outing was actually this past August against the Guardians. He went 6 innings, had 2 strikeouts, only allowed 1 hit, had 5 walks, but still controlled the damage. Didn't allow a single run through 6 innings. Wow, 5 walks, didn't allow a single run. That's insane. So Cole, and then he pitched against them in 2023. Pitched against them 2023 twice. let up 2 earned runs across 6 innings. And then in his first start against them in 2023, let up 2 earned runs across 7 innings. So, Cole, you got to like those numbers. 5-1 lifetime against the Guardians since 2021. 2.84 ERA. Only one loss. That was a bad one. 5.2 innings in 2021. 5.2 innings, 10 hits allowed, 7 earned runs. That was a bad start. All right, but Cole, if he can continue what he's did the past 3 seasons against Cleveland, they're going to go up 2-0 tonight. Like I said before, if Judge gets going, they win the game no matter what. Cakewalk to the World Series. They're going to be in the World Series even if it doesn't get going. But at some point, they want to win the World Series, whether they play the Mets, whether they play the Dodgers. They are going to need Aaron Judge. Giancarlo Stanton, you can expect him to be a superstar the rest of the postseason. It's a reoccurring theme with him. The Yankees bullpen giving you more than you expected for sure. Carlos Rodon, if he has starts like he did yesterday for the rest of the playoffs, huge plus. He can join the conversation as Garrett Cole and Clark Schmidt as Yankee starters that we trust. So, yeah, Yankees in a good spot right now. They got an easy path to the World Series, 3 wins away against the worst team. Not the worst team, they're division winners. But, out of the 4 teams left, I would say they're the best team. Yankees are the best team. I'd say they're better than the Dodgers, and they're better than the Mets. I mean, you could talk all you want about you got 3 MVPs at the top of the Dodgers lineup with Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman. If Judge gets going, what about Aaron Judge, Juan Soto, and Giancarlo Stanton? I will take those 3 guys. Aaron Judge, Soto and Stanton are clearing all 3 of those guys this postseason. I mean, you got to make a case that you'd rather Ohtani over any of those besides Judge, or maybe Betts over the other 2. Maybe. I don't know. That's a tough call. That's another debate for another day. Betts versus Soto. Who would you rather have? I'd say I'd rather Soto than Freddie Freeman, especially because of the age. But Freddie Freeman, he's phenomenal. But a Yankees-Dodgers World Series would be insane, dude. That would be insane. So Yankees are just going to make the World Series insane no matter what, because Yankees-Dodgers is insane, and Yankees-Mets obviously would light the state of New York, not just the city of New York, the state of New York on fire. It would be insane. But yeah, let's wrap up some baseball. Yankees actually start pretty soon in about an hour. Garrett Cole, Tanner Bibee, Game 2 ALCS. Yankees with an opportunity to get 2 wins closer to the World Series. Mets tomorrow night. Severino on the bump against Walker Buehler. They're trying to do the same thing, get 2 wins away from the World Series so we can see a Subway World Series. All right, let's talk football. Jets, they traded for Davante Adams earlier today. A move I thought they should have made a few weeks ago. If you're going to do it, you might as well strike on it earlier. You could say you could count the Jets out at 2-4 right now, 3rd in the AFCs, but at the end of the day, they're a game out of the wild card spot in the AFC. You got to like it. Overall, Aaron Rodgers played pretty good last night. I would not say the Jets lost because of Aaron Rodgers. The Jets lost because our kicker, Greg the Leg, sucked. The Jets lost because Mike Williams slipped. The Jets lost because Breece Hall couldn't hold on to the football. The Jets lost because Tyron Smith, a crucial penalty call that took back a touchdown. Joe Tippmann, he had a crucial holding call. Penalties, like so many little things that the Jets had problems with Robert Saleh. And the Jets continue to have problems with it without Robert Saleh. I know we're only a week removed, but the Jets consistently find ways to lose football games. They can never find a way to win. The past 3 weeks, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets offense has had the opportunity to get a to go out there and put together a game-winning drive. And they failed 3 times in a row. Very unlike Aaron Rodgers. But like I said before, that game was not on Aaron Rodgers yesterday. Before that, the previous 2 weeks, that was on Aaron Rodgers. This week, it was not. The run game was going. He was connecting in the passing game with Garrett Wilson. Allen Lazard looked great. Breece Hall looked great. The offense looked much better under Todd Downing than it did with Nathaniel Hackett calling those plays for the Jets. And then the defense, they just can't stop the run. They can't stop the run outside of Sauce Gardner and really Quincy Williams. Everybody on the Jets defense has sucked. Sauce and Quincy Williams are carrying the Jets defense right now. But we're going to talk about it later. Let's stick with the offense. Rodgers went 23 of 35. Crucial. I mean, not really a crucial interception. It was a crucial interception. Mike Williams catches that ball. He doesn't slip. I mean, it's a completely different story today. But 294 yards, 2 touchdowns, an interception, 23 of 35 yesterday. Breece Hall, 18 carries, 113 yards, no touchdowns. Could have had a touchdown, but didn't do it. Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson both eclipsed 100 receiving yards. Allen Lazard, 6 catches, 114 yards with a touchdown. Garrett Wilson, 8 catches, 107 yards with a touchdown. Mike Williams is probably going to have to kick rocks and get out of here. And I hate to see him go because I do like him as a receiver. And I hate how Aaron Rodgers did throw him under the bus yesterday, but it is what it is. We have to accept it. I'm a Jets fan. I just got to accept it. Davante Adams joining Allen Lazard and Garrett Wilson, who both just eclipsed 100 yards yesterday with Rodgers. This receiving room is dominant. So anybody who wants to say, oh, the Jets' problems won't be fixed with Davante Adams, I think you're stupid. Because here's my case on why. If we had Davante Adams the past 3 weeks, the Jets aren't 2-4. The Jets are, am I doing my math right, 5-1. Jets would be 5-1. I mean, if you think about it, we're a few plays away. We could have won every single game these past 3 weeks. Every single game. You have a Davante Adams to make a big catch. Set you up in a good spot. There it is. And I know we have playmakers. But you know what? The Jets, they're in a hole right now. They're in a hole. They had to dig deeper. And they had to get more help. I like the decision to put Todd Downing as the offensive play caller. It looked good last night. And now with Davante Adams joining that receiving room of Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard. Allen Lazard has been having a phenomenal year. He's got 5 receiving touchdowns through the first 6 games this year. And Garrett Wilson, back-to-back 100-yard games. We all know what he can do. I mean, he clips over 1,000 yards in back-to-back seasons with Zach Wilson, Joe Flacco, Mike White, but shout out to Joe Flacco. He's actually missed that guy. But you got to be pumped. The Jets have a real opportunity to turn the season around, and I think maybe even be 7-4 over their next 5 games. And that's a tough task. 5 games in a row to win, but they can beat the Steelers. It's going to be tough. That offensive line is definitely going to need to show up big primetime Sunday night against the Steelers. My boys Sean and Josh, I know you're going to be shooing me for that game at Pittsburgh. Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt, they're going to want to kill Aaron Rodgers, and Rodgers has been getting beat up. But I'd say that's a toss-up, only because of the defense. Patriots, we know we can beat. Texans, we can beat. Cardinals, Texans is still going to be tough. They're 5-1 this year, but that's a toss-up, I'd say. But Cardinals, we can beat. Colts, we can beat. Seahawks, we can beat. Dolphins, we can beat. Jaguars, we can beat. Rams, we can beat. Bills, I don't know. We didn't beat them yesterday. And the Dolphins, we can beat. So if I'm looking at the Jets schedule, I'll predict them to win week 7 against the Steelers. I'll say it right now. That'll make us 3 wins. Patriots will give us 4. We'll be back at 500, 4-4. I think we're going to lose to the Texans. We'll push it at 4-5. Cardinals, back to 500, 5-5. Cardinals, they've been up and down this year. They're also 2-4. Kyler Murray, 8 touchdowns, 2 interceptions this year. He's actually having a pretty good year. Cardinals overall are not. So that would put us at 5-5. Colts, we can definitely beat them. Joe Flacco, though, he could come to haunt us. He's been having a great year with he just doesn't have anything to lose. He's playing great, probably his best football, I'd say, of his career. 71 of 108 so far in the year, 716 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. Flacco's nuts. But we could beat them still, 6-5. I think the Jets jump to after week 11. Then we get a bye week, well-rested that the Rodgers will definitely need. Week 13, we can definitely beat the Seahawks. That'll put us at 7-5. Dolphins, we can beat them, especially if Tua is still out. 8-5. Jaguars, 9-5. Rams, 10-5. Bills, 10-6. Dolphins, 11-6. So the Jets, now that they have Davante Adams, I'm much more confident that they can finish the season with 11 wins. They can afford to lose 2 games. 2 more games this year. And that maybe would put them in a spot to win the division. Who knows? But I do like it. I do like the trade. Especially with Davante Adams, Garrett Wilson, and Allen Lazard. Davante Adams, when he had Aaron Rodgers, he was the best wide receiver in football, no doubt about it. I'm still in shock. Like, the Mets are still, and same with the Yankees, like this baseball, like the playoffs are definitely kind of drawing my attention away sometimes from how big like the Jets could be and how bad they are. Like, I'm kind of cutting them some slack. But once this season ends for the Mets and Yankees, I'm going to be pissed unless they turn it around. But Davante Adams, man, he's a stud. He's an absolute stud. You look at his numbers his last year in Green Bay, he had 1,553 receiving yards, 11 touchdowns. His second to last season in Green Bay, 18 receiving touchdowns, 1,374 receiving yards. And just 2 years ago, he eclipsed 1,500 yards and led the league in receiving touchdowns with 14 of them. With terrible quarterbacks in 2023, he still managed to put together over 1,100 yards, 1,144 to be exact, with 8 receiving touchdowns. So Davante, at 32 years old, if he's got a little bit of gas left in that superstar tank, I think the Jets are really going to do damage. And this is going to help Garrett Wilson and Allen Lazard out so much. So much. It's definitely got to help with the ability to get rid of the ball quicker, too, because now you got Allen Lazard, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Davante Adams. Like, those are your skilled position players. One of them is going to be open quick. So who cares about the offensive line? Block for at least 3 seconds. I mean, sometimes it's quicker than that. A lot of times quicker than that. Just get in front of somebody. Give Rodgers a half a second to just get the ball into somebody's hand, please. Because he'll be able to do it with these 3. For sure. But Jets at 2-4. Definitely not in a good spot. They're definitely Super Bowl or bust. I think they can turn it around. I think they're going to finish the year with 11 wins. Hopefully my projection is right. But let's do this quick. Let's wrap this show up with the Giants. My little defense of Brian Daboll and my little throwing shade at Daniel Jones. I mean, week in and week out, oh, Daniel Jones has a good game. Daniel Jones has a bad game. Daniel Jones has a good game. He could do it. This is why he got paid. This is why he got that contract. I mean, remember that game against the Vikings 2 years ago? I mean, he really did something there. I mean, when are we going to give up on this guy? When are we going to give up? He won out of like 5 games. Every 5 games, he has a great game. That's not a good quarterback. I said it a few weeks ago. Daniel Jones, out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL, out of the 32 teams, Daniel Jones could be a starting quarterback, but on a bad football team. And that's quite frankly what he's been. He's been a starting quarterback on a bad football team. I don't think the Giants suck this year because Brian Daboll is having a bad year coaching. Giants suck this year because Daniel Jones sucks. Their quarterback sucks. He was playing good when he had Malik Nabers. Now Malik Nabers has been out the past 2 weeks. They could have used him these past 2 weeks. Yeah, that's really it. Daniel Jones doesn't have playmakers, and he's not good enough to overcome not having playmakers. Just how many opportunities is he going to get? I think the Giants should seriously consider benching Daniel Jones if they lose 2 more games in a row. I mean, what's the point? We all know Daniel Jones is not going to be the starting quarterback of the New York Giants next year. We all know it. This past Sunday night, they only scored 7 points. Daniel Jones, 22 of 41, 205 yards passing. Throws an interception that finished the game with a rating of 57.5. Rushing-wise, 11 rushes, 56 yards. Now on the year, Daniel Jones has a 62.1 completion percentage, 6 touchdowns in 6 games, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles. That's just not good, man. That's subpar. Subpar numbers. Not terrible, but not great. He's not going to win you a game. And if the Giants had a Joe Burrow, I'm not saying they need to find Joe Burrow this year or next year, but they need a quarterback that's not Daniel Jones. They had an opportunity at Jaden Daniels in the draft, potentially, if they wanted to trade up. They had opportunities to draft quarterbacks even with the spot they were in. And it looked like Joe Shane kind of wanted to do that based off Hard Knocks. But he's given Jones a prove-it year. And Jones is not proven that he should be the starting quarterback of the New York Giants next year. So, definitely an alarming problem for the Giants, I'd say, is when are we going to have the conversation about sitting Daniel Jones? When are we going to have that conversation? These next few games, let's see who the Giants got. We got the Eagles this Sunday, 1 o'clock. Followed up by the Steelers for Monday Night Football in Week 8. And they got the Commanders in Week 9, who they didn't have success against earlier on in the season. Panthers Week 10, they should be able to win that game. But, I mean, they're not beating the Eagles, they're not beating the Steelers, and they're not beating the Commanders. That's 3 straight losses. Come Week 10, I don't think Daniel Jones is going to be the starting quarterback of the New York Giants. That's what I'll finish on today. All right. Garrett Cole, Tanner Bybee, tonight, Game 2, ALCS, Luis Severino, Walker Buehler, tomorrow night, NLCS, Game 3. Mets and Yankees, both 3 wins away from giving us a Subway World Series. Jets, Davante Adams, let's go. Lock back in, Jet fans. Season ain't over. Not yet. Not yet. We still got, 11 more games to go. We still got time to turn it around, and the Giants seriously got to consider talking about benching Daniel Jones. All right, that's it for today's show, guys. Thank you for watching. Whether it's on X, whether it's on YouTube, make sure you go over to YouTube if you're not subscribed. Hit subscribe. All right, deuces, guys. Oh, and if you are watching on X, give it a like, give it a retweet. Why the hell not? Help a kid out. Help a kid out. All right, I'm out of here, guys. Deuces, let's go.